Okay, so let's get right into it. The whole story around GPT-5, it's been a real roller coaster, right? Sky-high expectations on one side and a much more complicated reality on the other. In this explainer, we're going to break down what everyone was hoping for, what we actually got, and what it all means for the future of AI.
First up, we have to talk about the hype because, wow, before GPT-5 even dropped, the anticipation was it was through the roof. This wasn't treated like just another product update. It was built up to be this massive, world-changing event. The reaction was instant. And I'm not just talking about tech nerds getting excited. This went completely mainstream. There was this feeling in the air that something truly revolutionary was about to happen, and you really couldn't escape it. Social media just exploded, Twitter was on fire, Reddit threads were filled with these wild theories. YouTubers, they had their shocked face thumbnails preloaded and ready to go. And the expectations were all over the map, from the kind of practical, like, hey, maybe it'll do my taxes, to the totally absurd, like people joking that it was going to drop a fire mixtape. The hype was very, very real. And this wasn't just coming from us, the users. The hype was being fueled from the very, very top. Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, was using language that sounded like he was building something almost spiritual, talking about creating something closer to a religion and hinting that we were right on the cusp of digital superintelligence. So you've got this incredible mountain of hype as the backdrop, and then the actual release landed. And the reaction? Well, it was not what anybody was expecting. The whole world kind of held its breath, right? The tech was finally in our hands. Was this it? Was this the big digital superintelligence moment that everyone had been waiting for? For the huge majority of everyday users, the feeling was just a collective shrug, a simple but really powerful meh. It was cool, yeah, for sure, but it just wasn't that world-changing, mind-blowing leap that the hype train had promised us. So what happened? What was the disconnect? Well, to really get it, you have to understand that there were basically two completely different launches happening at the same time for two totally different groups of people.
Yeah, the audience was just completely split down the middle. On one side, you have the developers, the folks who are actually building apps using OpenAI's tech. For them, it was a huge win, a solid upgrade. But for the masses, for the average person just logging into chat, the feeling was a lot closer to, wait, that's it?
So the crucial thing to realize is that for most of us, the changes were pretty small. They were incremental. Yeah, okay, the voice mode feels a little more natural. The model makes stuff up or hallucinates a little less often. And if you're a pro user, you get some neat integrations. But at its core, it felt less like a brand new thing and more like a nicely polished version of what we already had. But see, the real game changer wasn't in the chat window at all. It was all about the pricing. For developers, a big drop in API costs is everything. It means they can build more complex apps, they can experiment more, and they can launch new things without going totally broke. From a business and innovation standpoint, this is a massive, massive deal. This brings up a pretty big question, right? Why was the leap so, modest for the rest of us? To answer that, we've got to peek behind the curtain at the pretty immense technical challenges that OpenAI is running into. And a really deep dive report from the tech publication The Information did just that. They talked to multiple sources inside OpenAI, and it really pulled back that curtain. It revealed that the path to creating GPT-5 was anything but smooth. The report laid out two huge problems. First, these models are incredibly hungry for high-quality data to learn from, and we're just kind of starting to run out of the good stuff on the internet. And second, the old trick, just make the model bigger and throw more computing power at it, well, it's just not giving them the same dramatic jumps in performance anymore. The result? Progress is getting more and more incremental. The AI expert Gary Marcus really summed this up perfectly. He said the era of pure scaling, just going bigger and bigger, is hitting a wall of diminishing returns. Getting to that next level is going to take a whole different approach. And get this, an early version that was supposed to be GPT-5, with the codename Orion, reportedly just wasn't enough of a step up. It was eventually released as GPT 4.5 instead, which really shows you just how hard it's become to make those giant generational leaps we used to see. So, where does all this leave us? We've got these slowing technical leaps on one hand, but a business that is absolutely booming on the other. What does this actually mean for the future? It's the natural question to ask, isn't it? If the big wow moments are getting fewer and farther between, does that mean the AI revolution is fizzling out?
Well, not so fast. Take a look at this number, $12.7 billion. That's OpenAI's projected annual income for 2025. So while the technical progress might feel a bit slower, the business, well, the business is anything but.
And that's really the central paradox here. Even a so-called modest improvement, like what we got with GPT-5, is still incredibly valuable. Making the model cheaper for developers and slightly better for users, that alone is enough to fuel a multi-billion-dollar business and a whole ecosystem of new companies. So here's the real takeaway. Maybe the era of those shocking, groundbreaking leaps every single year, maybe that's slowing down. But perhaps this is just what the next phase of the AI revolution looks like. Not giant jumps, but steady, compounding improvements that are quietly and very, very profitably integrating into every corner of our digital lives. The progress isn't stopping, it's just changing shape.